True Crime Society podcast contains adult themes and violence and is not intended for all audiences. Listener discretion is advised. And if you'd like to skip the intro or move to any specific part of the podcast, please refer to the timestamps listed in the episode description. Thank you. What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the True Crime Society podcast with Stephanie and Olivia. It is February 22nd, 2026 right now, and I've had like a crazy week. So anyone who is on Patreon will have seen, because I talked about it there, because, you know, I don't have a lot of friends, so I just talk to people on Patreon like they're my friends. My friends. Baby Jack, I decided on was it Wednesday or Thursday? I don't know. Midweek, I decided, you know what? I'm supposed to be having him try peanut butter since 4 months. They told me to get it done. And I was like, he's 6 months old. I got to get this done. So brazenly at 8 a.m, I mixed a tiny bit of peanut butter with formula. And I was like, gave him one little spoonful and he seemed okay. Not even a spoonful, like the tip of the spoon. I gave him 2 little tips of the spoons. And I was so confident. I was like, he's not going to have a reaction. Like, nobody in me or Mike's families have food allergies or anything like that. Everything I read online is like, yeah, like it's unlikely that they're going to have a reaction the first time. And if they do, it'll be like minimal. And then you just know not to do it again. And, you know, my sister, when she did it with my nephew, they went to the ER parking lot and did it, which is the smart thing to do. And I was like, yeah, I could do that, but I don't feel like dragging him out. My nephew didn't have a reaction. So I was like, yeah, it's going to be totally fine. Like, whatever. So I wasn't even that worried about it. I was a little worried, but not that worried. So I give it to him. He immediately starts rubbing his face. And I thought nothing of it because he's starting to teeth again. And he's been rubbing his face a lot. He starts getting really whiny or whatever. And I'm like, you know, he's always whiny. It's fine. It's still fine. So I bring him to his change table because it was also his nap time was coming up. So I was like, let me change his diaper, get him ready for his nap. So I'm changing his diaper. I'm looking at his diaper. I look back up at his face, upper lip so swollen and puffy. And I was like, I was literally shocked Pikachu meme expression. Like, what do you mean he's having a reaction to a highly allergic thing? I was just like, and then I'm like, fuck, what do I do? I wasn't even that worried about it, where I didn't even look up how severe of a reaction this is. So of course I quickly Google swollen lip from peanut butter. And I was like, this is a severe reaction. You should get medical attention right away. And I was like, fuck. So I call his doctor's office. I was like, should I go to the ER or should I call an ambulance? Because I live 15, 20 minutes away from the hospital. She was like, oh, do you have Benadryl? And I was like, no, because of course I don't have that either. I was like, I only have adult Benadryl. And she was like, oh, she was like, yeah, I'd probably just bring him in then. I was like, well, should I call an ambulance? She was like, I would just drive him. She's like, if it's not getting worse and he's not struggling to breathe, then he's probably fine to just be driven in. So of course then I'm like, oh fuck, I'm wearing literally my pajamas. I'm not wearing a bra. I quickly throw at least jeans on because that was the most accessible thing. Throw him in the car seat, get in the car. Well, first I had to slip on black ice also. So then I was covered in dirt.
Oh my gosh.
After I got him in the car though, thank God. Because the last thing I need then is to slip with him in the car seat. Drove to the hospital and it was so stressful because he's in the back. I have a little camera thing and I'm watching him and I'm like, is he still breathing okay? Is he still okay? Does he look okay? He looks kind of sleepy. Is it because he can't breathe or is it because he's tired? So the whole time I'm like, baby man, you're fine, right? We're doing okay. He seemed fine. He was just chilling. So finally we get there and they let me bring him in right away and they do his oxygen and all that. And it was 90%, so, or 90 whatever on the pulse ox. So it was still fine. It seems like it never affected his breathing, thankfully. But then I was there for 4 hours under observation. They gave him medicine. And once they gave him the medicine, his lip went down. He got a few hives while we were waiting. But just lesson learned to not learn things the hard way and better safe than sorry. Because I was like, yeah, I don't want to drag him out to the ER and make him sit there for a half hour in the car. Well, we went anyways.
And you spent 4 hours there.
Yeah, and I spent 4 hours there. But yeah, so everyone don't be overly confident like me just because you read a bunch of stuff online being like, no, it's fine. Like most people don't have a reaction. Just go to the ER parking lot, especially if you live 20 minutes away and you're by yourself.
Yeah. I feel like too, I would have been more worried if there had been I don't even know if it's genetic, but like just in my head, I would have been like, I would be more worried if you knew that there was a history of it in your family somewhere. I would have also been the same.
No one in our family has any food allergies like that. It was crazy. And it's weird because I feel like moms have an instinct. Like when that was happening, I didn't feel scared or stressed or like panicky. Like, of course I was like, oh my God, but like I was just like locked in on being like, I need to like get this dealt with. I need to deal with it. Like there's no time to panic. And then after when I was like
fight or flight mentality, like I know you wouldn't obviously run away, but it's like the fight where he's like, no, you
like you just have to get it done. Like what am I going to do? Just cry and then he's going to die of a peanut allergy. But then when I was like in the ER, the little room in the ER with him and he was having his nap, he was like sleeping on me and the adrenaline kind of wears off. I like started tearing up and I was like, I'm such a stupid idiot. Why would I do this? Like, what the fuck's wrong with me? And like, I know it's not my fault, but it's hard to just like not feel bad. And then I was like, I'm covered in dirt. I look a fucking mess. I haven't showered in a week. I am not wearing a bra. Like I'm wearing a fucking, death metal shirt that's Mike's. I'm like, these people must think, I'm sure they see crazier looking people, but I'm like, I look a mess.
Imagine the people who like literally rush in their pajamas and things like that. They'd get that all the time.
That could have been me, but still I was like, let me just put on jeans quickly.
Well, at least it wasn't the worst. Like it was a horrible time, but at least it had a happy outcome.
Yeah, well, now we have an EpiPen, and we have liquid Benadryl and liquid Children's Zyrtec, so we're ready for next time.
Ready for the next time.
Yeah. And now he's teething on top of that, so it's been tough because he's been struggling with this next tooth that's coming in, just total crab fest. But also, not to just make it all sound horrible, now that he's like 6 months, he has so much personality. He's so silly. He's so funny. He like cracks me and Mike up all day long. And it's so cute because he's like starting to not like he's recognized me for a bit because I'm with like him all the time. Like I'm not just like this person who takes care of him. Like he gets happy and excited to see me. But even with Mike too now, like when Mike gets home from work, I could tell he like gets excited and he like reaches up for him. So, it's tough, but then there's some nice times too.
Yeah, I feel like it does get a bit easier when they start to be more reactive and, more interactive, I guess is the word.
Yeah. Yeah, because you feel like more love. It's not like just like this little thing you're taking care of.
Who just screams at you all day.
Yeah, you're just always mad. But what's going on with you?
Nothing. I was just saying we had a chaotic week last week. We had a lot going on. I took my kids to see Lord during the week, which was great, but like midweek and late nights, early mornings are not. I'm too old for that. So hopefully a quieter week this week. I just did have a good book recommendation though. Because I don't know if I mentioned on here, in either on Patreon or here, I spoke about how I've got a Kindle now because we've got this trip coming up. I'm like, I can't take books. It's going to weigh too much. So I bought a little Kindle and I read my first ever book on it the other day and it was so good. My friend Elise recommended it. Sometimes she listens to the podcast, so she might hear this. But she's like, I love this book. And I thought, okay, I'm going to try it. I feel like we have similar taste. It was called Wild Dark Shore. And I think the author's name is Charlotte. And I think you say her name McConaughey. It's not spelled like Matthew McConaughey, but it's something like that. And I read it in 2 days, like literally a Monday night and a Tuesday night. And I just read the whole thing. I couldn't put it down. It was probably one of the best books I've read, especially one of the best, I was going to say best books this year. It's only February, but one of the best books I've read in a while. But basically it's about this father and his 3 children and they live on a tiny island near Antarctica. Which is like, it sounds super niche, but it was so interesting. And I have to say too, if I read the back of the book, I'll be like, I don't know if this book is for me, but I highly, highly recommend it. Wild Dark Shore, it's called. Check it out. And they live in this super isolated place. And I won't give it away, but all these crazy things happen. It's very, very interesting. I loved it. And just the writing was amazing, like beautifully written, would be a great movie, great show. Absolutely.
Interesting. Yeah, it does sound like something I'd be like, I'm not reading that.
Yeah, I agree. I would never either. Like, and it's like, I don't know, I wouldn't spoil it, but there's a lot about like plants and seeds and stuff. I'm not into that. But honestly, it's super interesting.
You're not selling it for me.
It says the New York Times bestselling novel about a family living alone on a remote island when a mysterious woman washes up on shore. So yeah, I enjoyed it. And it was it was a longish book, but I feel like it was a super easy read because it was so enthralling. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah. Well, everyone check it out.
Yeah.
Olivia always has good recommendations.
I feel like most of the time I'm like, this is not a literary book. It's not a literary masterpiece, because I do read a lot of junk because I just need like an escapist read. Whereas this was like, it was very well written. I enjoyed it.
Yeah. All right, you want to do the Patreons?
Yes, we have a lot of new Patreons this week. Yeah, so I hope I've encompassed everyone. Again, if I haven't, please send us a message. But so we have Charity, Melanie, Laura, Jordan, Megan, Carly, Jess, Loretta, Adele, Jocelyn, Zoe, Melissa, Cassie, Vanessa, Paige, Jane, Katie, Christina, Megan again, Cindy, E, and Beth. So thank you lots this week.
Yay, thank you.
I don't know if everyone joined for Nancy or because they got Nancy, the Nancy episode a little bit earlier, but we have had I feel like Patreon goes through highs and lows, and at the moment everyone is being very lovely. And when I say highs, I mean in terms of people who are joining, not in terms of, it's always high content. It's always
quality.
high. Yeah. But thank you so much.
We have another one to add also, Julie S., who was already a Patreon subscriber because she commented that she was going to have to leave and rejoin Patreon to get a shout out. Got in too early for the extra love. So thank you also, Julie S.
Yeah. And if you are an existing Patreon, because I know like some of them have been with us since like 2023, I think we started Patreon. So if you are OG, let us know. We can give you a shout out, definitely.
Yeah. But like not all of you at once.
Just space it out.
Yeah, we'll just do 2 at a time.
And we did have a very quick listen over the week before we get into the episode, but this is Brittany on Instagram, and this made me laugh. She sent me a message, or sent us a message, and it says, my husband, as in this is what her husband said, can we listen to the Aussie lady and the New York lady talk about murders? Which made me laugh. I thought that was good.
Yeah, I like that.
Before we get into the episode, we're going to hear a word from our sponsor, No CD. Have you ever had an unwanted thought that really gets stuck in your head, like in a way that felt deeper than being unsettled by it? Maybe you got caught in a spiral of endless what-if scenarios, you couldn't stop picturing disturbing mental images, or kept questioning yourself and wondering things like, could I ever be capable of doing something terrible? Here's the thing, almost everyone has thoughts like that. They might just not talk about them because they can be violent, frightening, or taboo. But if those thoughts are feeling stuck in your mind and causing a lot of distress, it might be a sign of obsessive compulsive disorder or OCD. OCD latches onto these thoughts and can make you feel like a monster, even though that isn't true. That's what makes OCD so debilitating. The thoughts and fears can feel so real that it keeps people suffering in silence. Plus, not every therapist understands OCD or is qualified to treat it effectively, which can make it difficult to reach out for help. So instead, people seek relief through certain mental or physical actions, even though they never seem to help in the long run.
But you know what does help when you're struggling with OCD? Specialized therapy. And that's why we want to tell you about No CD. With No CD, you can do virtual therapy designed specifically for OCD. Their licensed therapists understand even the most taboo and hard to talk about symptoms. And most importantly, they know how to help. Every No CD therapist is trained in exposure and response prevention, or ERP, a type of specialized therapy that's the most proven treatment for OCD. No CD also accepts many major insurance plans, including United Healthcare, Aetna, Cigna, and more, making life-changing treatment accessible and affordable. And they provide always-on support between your therapy sessions, so you're never alone. If you think you might be struggling with OCD, please don't wait. Go to nocd.com to schedule a free 15-minute call with their team and find out more about how they can help. That's nocd.com to learn more and book a free 15-minute call. Okay, so today we're going to be talking about something different. It's still true crime, but it's a little more like
sometimes it's not always true. I guess it's not always true crime. The cases we are going to discuss today are strange. It is mysterious, strange phenomenon, but it is definitely true crime related.
Yeah, these ones.
Yeah.
So we're going to discuss a strange phenomenon known as folie à deux.
Folie à deux.
Known as folie à deux. I can't do that noise.
Deux, like deux.
Deux.
Because French is un, deux, trois, quatre. That's how you say the 1, 2, 3. Deux, like deux. Yeah.
I'm going to leave this in because after I'm just like, I'm glad no one's called me a dumb idiot. Folie à deux. Duh.
Duh. Like duh.
That. So anyways, it's a French term that means madness of two. It can also refer to shared psychosis or shared delusional Disorder. The phrase was coined in the 19th century when a French couple began exhibiting paranoid and delusional behavior. While doctors were unable to tell which of them became psychotic first, it was clear they had fallen into a cycle of reinforcing each other's delusions. This actually made me think of the case that we talked about where Chat GPT reinforced that guy's delusions, because it's like the same thing in a way.
It is, even though, well, it is the same, because I feel like the same thing would happen. Chat tells you what you want to hear, and it told him what he wanted to hear.
Yeah, it encourages your delusion. So this can relate to crime in many cases. For example, people have committed murder with shared psychosis being put forward as a defense, and people have also gone missing after becoming caught up in shared delusions, which I feel like we hear more of, like the missing, a whole family's missing, and it's because of some shared delusion of the parents, and then they drag the kids into it.
I feel like too, like during the pandemic and these kind of crazy times, it happens, I don't want to say often, but you hear more and more of like whole families going off the grid, or even like, yeah. So I feel like as more and more, I guess, conspiracy theories come out, people have access now more to these type of things too with the internet and all that. So it happens. Angel Volnaya was the lady who we did the episode on. She was the one who I think could have been alive after she disappeared, but she was very paranoid also, based on what she thought was going on in the world.
Yeah, so it definitely happens. These are two cases that, well, we'll just get into them. So the first one we're going to talk about today is the case of twin sisters Ursula and Sabina Eriksson. So in May 2008, Ursula ran into the path of a truck on a motorway, and Sabina then followed and stepped into the path of an oncoming vehicle. Somehow they both managed to survive with severe injuries.
Yeah, and because there is footage of this all happening, and it's like a motorway is like an interstate in the US.
It's like a highway.
Yes, this happened in the UK. So it's like a highway where cars are going super fast.
Yeah, and they both just jump in front of cars.
Yeah.
It was later claimed that Sabina was a secondary sufferer of the shared psychosis, influenced by the presence or perceived presence of her twin sister Ursula, who was the primary sufferer. So basically, one of them gets very paranoid and then kind of convinces the other one, and then they both just feed off of each other and whatever their shared psychosis is about, it seems.
Yeah.
So then after the twins were released from the hospital from their injuries from jumping in front of cars, Sabina actually ended up stabbing a man to death. So we'll get into some background about them. Sabina and her identical twin Ursula were born in Sweden on November 3rd, 1967. They had an older sister and an older brother as well. Family have said that they had no history of mental illness and no criminal history either. By the year 2000, the twins had moved from Sweden. Ursula was living in the US and Sabina was living in Ireland with her partner and 2 children. Ursula then traveled to Ireland to visit Sabina in May 2008. And on Friday, May 16th, 2008, that's when things started to get strange. So it seems like Ursula went to Sabina in Ireland and just riled her up, and that's where all this started.
Yeah.
So according to a 2009 article from the Sentinel, it says, at 2 a.m. on May 16th, the sisters left Sabina's home. It's thought they possibly took a ferry to Liverpool in England. They arrived there around 8:30 a.m. on Saturday, May 17th, 2008.
So just to kind of interject too, so at this time the sisters were 40 years old. So, not young, not old, but they were 40 years old. And like, it just seems like, I know it doesn't seem like much just getting a ferry, but they got a ferry to another country. They literally upped and left the house and went to another country, which is a lot in itself. But
yeah, it seems like kind of on a whim.
Yeah, absolutely. At 2 a.m., like what are they doing at 2 a.m. going on the ferry?
Yeah, very bizarre. They went to the St. Anne police station in Liverpool and attempted to report concerns that Sabina had about her children. So, like, why'd they go there to report the concerns about her children in Ireland?
I feel like maybe they were thinking they had to get away, they were in danger. But then would you leave the children if you thought the children were in danger? I don't know. A lot of questions, I agree.
Liverpool police contacted police in Dublin to request more information. They spoke to Sabina's partner and were told that the couple had a fight the previous evening. So I have questions about that. Like, what was the fight about?
Yeah.
Around 11:30 a.m. on May 17th, Sabina and Ursula got on a bus that was headed to London. They had been on the bus for around an hour when approximately at 1 p.m., the bus stopped at Kiel to change drivers. And this isn't like a scheduled rest stop or something. It was just something that the woman wouldn't have known about. Like, they're just changing drivers. So they wouldn't have been aware that the stop was coming up to make a plan that they were going to get off there or something.
Yeah, and so they stopped in Kiel. They call it Kiel Services. So if you see any articles about that, basically it's like a service station is what we call a gas station here. It's somewhere that's on a motorway where they sometimes have like a cafe, a restaurant, restrooms, all that type of stuff. So they stopped at this place so they could change drivers. But yeah, it definitely wasn't a scheduled stop along the way where everyone was planning to get off and get refreshments or whatever.
Yeah. So they got off the bus. There's some varying reports as to why. Some reports say that they felt sick. However, the bus driver said that he asked them to leave because he thought they were being weird and suspicious. He said they were holding their bags very tightly, and when they refused that he be allowed to search them for illegal items, he did not let them reboard. So I guess they were just acting strange.
Yeah.
The driver also told the manager of the service station as to what was going on. She also felt that they were acting suspicious and called the police. Authorities arrived and questioned Ursula and Sabina, but let them go after saying they appeared generally harmless. But I want to know what they were doing. Like, what were they doing that was suspicious?
Yeah. I feel like sometimes you just get a vibe from people. Like, obviously, they were holding their bags. I imagine them holding their bags close to their chest.
Clutching to their chest.
No. Like, I would be like, wow, what's going on here?
Like, looking scared, maybe. I don't know. So the next events were captured on CCTV. The sisters left the service station and began to walk down the central part of the M6 motorway. They then attempted to cross it, which caused major traffic jams, chaos, and they obtained minor injuries. So I guess that's the highway, right, that we were just talking about. They tried to cross it.
No. So this happens and then they run into the traffic. So there's like, this was just the very minor part, and then so the police arrive, and that's when they run into the traffic. So the
M6 motorway is still like the highway.
Yeah. M6 motorway is like a main motorway through,
and they're just trying to walk right across it for some reason. Yeah. Right. So police and other authorities were called to assist. By coincidence, the police were accompanied by a TV crew. They were filming a show called Motorway Cops, like very live PD type of cops.
Yeah. I feel like they were just lucky. Well, I don't want to say lucky because it's obviously a horrible situation, but it just was by chance that this camera crew were there and they managed, because it is very infamous footage. Like, I've seen it a lot over the years. I've always wanted to talk about this case, but it's very, very clear. Like, they had cameras there. It was all captured. So it's absolutely wild.
Yeah, I'm sure it was the last thing they suspected to happen. So police were standing with the women and other witnesses trying to figure out what was going on and get more information when Ursula broke free of the police and ran into the path of an oncoming Mercedes-Benz.
It was do you call them articulated lorries? I don't know what you'd call them, like a semi-trailer?
No, I don't.
What do you call like a massive truck? Like the ones that...
like an 18-wheeler?
Yeah. It says it's a heavy-duty freight vehicle. So basically it's got two parts. It's got like the back part and the... Yeah. I'd say you'd call it an 18-wheeler, yeah.
Okay.
If you want to mention that's what it was.
So then Ursula broke free of the police and ran into the path of an oncoming Mercedes-Benz truck, like an 18-wheeler truck, traveling at 56 miles per hour. Sabina then quickly followed her into the road and was hit head-on by a Volkswagen Polo traveling at a high speed also. Sabina was knocked unconscious and remained unresponsive for 15 minutes. Ursula had her legs crushed by the truck. So somehow they both lived. You would think they would not, jumping in front of an 18-wheeler on the highway and another car traveling at a fast speed. But so paramedics were called. Ursula resisted medical aid, even though her legs were crushed by a truck. She was spitting, scratching, and screaming. Ursula told the police officers restraining her, "I recognize you. I know you're not real." And Sabina, now awake again, shouted, "They're going to steal your organs." Seems like chaotic mess.
But I just
the TV crew was probably like, hell yeah.
Imagine being so severely injured that you're unconscious for 15 minutes and then being able to wake up and be screaming, "They're going to steal your organs." I don't know. Like, and I know, obviously, I don't want to get too much into it, but, you know, people, they say sometimes if they're on drugs, they can do almost superhuman things. I don't know. Or if they're in a psychotic state. Like. Yeah. I just feel like it's just wild that both with these injuries, they were able to be, I don't know if they were coherent, but they were able to be shouting and screaming these things.
Yeah. Seems like a big mess. So despite being so severely injured, Sabina got to her feet and attempted to run away from authorities. She started screaming for help from the police, even though they were the ones that she was also like running away from and trying to assist her. Emergency workers and members of the public worked together and were able to restrain Sabina. They carried her to an ambulance where she was handcuffed and sedated. Due to the behavior exhibited by the women, it was assumed that they were under the influence of drugs or that they had made some type of suicide pact. Ursula was flown to the hospital, and Sabina was taken for treatment and miraculously was well enough to be released into police custody after 5 hours. Sabina later told an officer at the police station, "We say in Sweden that an accident rarely comes alone. Usually at least one more follows, maybe two." Foreshadowing. Sabina was charged with trespass on the motorway and with hitting a police officer. She pled guilty and was sentenced to 1 day in custody. She was released on May 19th, 2008, as she had already spent the night in police custody, and she was released without undergoing a full psych evaluation. It's like, what's the point of holding someone for literally 1 day?
I feel like maybe because they thought that she was either under the influence of drugs or she was mentally ill, they were just like, that's enough. But still even more reason to give her at least a psych evaluation rather than just letting her wander the streets with no one and nothing.
Yeah, it seems kind of ridiculous that they were just like, off you go after running into the highway in front of a car. Yeah. So Sabina left the courthouse after she was released and began to wander the streets of Stoke-on-Trent, trying to find Ursula. She wore Ursula's clothing and was carrying belongings in a plastic bag that had been given to her by the police. Clearly still mentally unwell.
Yeah.
While she was walking, Sabina came across 2 men at 7 p.m. Their names were Glenn Hollinshead and Peter Malloy. Some reports say the men were out walking their dog, while other reports say that they were going home from the pub. They struck up a conversation, and Glenn was said to have taken pity on her. Sabina ended up going with the man back to Glenn's home. Peter would later say that Sabina was acting erratically and seemed nervous, which made him worried. He said that she kept getting up and looking out the window, which made him concerned that an abusive partner might be after her or something like that. She also appeared paranoid. She would offer the men cigarettes and then snatch them out of their mouths, saying they were poisoned. At around 11:40 p.m., Peter left the house to go home. The following day, Tuesday, May 20th, 2008, Glenn called his brother around noon. His brother worked at a local hospital, and Glenn told him about Sabina and Ursula, and he asked his brother to find out what ward Ursula was on. At 7:40 that night, Glenn spoke to his neighbor and asked if they had any tea bags. His neighbor said that he was just finishing washing the vehicle and he would drop them to Glenn when he was done. Glenn went back into his home, but came back 74 seconds later saying, "She stabbed me." I don't get, why was she at his house? Like, why was he keeping her there? Like,
I don't know.
If he was like, oh, she was paranoid and weird, like, was he just trying to hook up with her? Like,
this is, weird. Like, if you saw a woman on the street who's wandering around, would you really invite her back to your house? I don't know, but maybe she did give them a sob story and they did feel sorry for her. But then now it's like 24 hours later and she's still at the house. I know I have a lot of questions about this too, but.
Paramedics responded to a call about the stabbing at 7:49 p.m. While on the way there, they saw Sabina standing in the middle of a nearby roadway. She was reportedly hitting herself in the head with a hammer. A motorist named Joshua stopped his car and took the hammer from Sabina. I would keep driving. I'm sorry.
Absolutely. I know. I think I've told this story once before, but once I was driving and it was like midnight and a man who was actually covered in blood ran out in front of my car and I wasn't nope. driving fast. And I'm like, what do I do? So I like drove around him and then called because I'm like, I'm absolutely not stopping.
Yeah, especially as like a woman.
Yeah. And I think I was like 18 or 19. I'm like, absolutely not. I would call the police, but there is no way I would be stopping for someone who's hitting themselves in the head with a hammer. I would call someone to help.
Hitting me with it.
Yeah.
So Sabina screamed at Joshua and took a roof tile from her pocket, and she hit him on the head with the tile. Paramedics ran to the scene and chased Sabina. She ended up jumping from a 12-meter or 40-foot-high bridge onto a motorway. She broke both her ankles and fractured her skull. Somehow still lives.
Yeah.
Authorities found Glenn's body at 8:05 p.m. His last words were reported to have been, "Look after my dog for me." Sad.
Yeah.
Glenn died after being stabbed 5 times with a kitchen knife. So Sabina was treated at the University Hospital of North Staffordshire. On June 6, 2008, she was arrested while still in the hospital. She was finally discharged on September 11, 2008, and was taken into custody and charged with murder that same day. Ursula also remained in the hospital until September. She went back to Sweden and eventually went home to the U.S.
I feel like this gives you an idea too of the severity of her injuries. Like the first incident on the motorway happened in May. She was in hospital until September, so months and months and months.
But and she refused medical help at the time.
Yeah, she was still trying to hit and abuse the police officers, but she was in hospital for months. That's wild. And I know even Sabina then was in hospital for months again after that second, or the jump onto the motorway. So it's just crazy that they had these severe injuries, but they were still able to basically put up a fight.
Yeah. Like you said, that adrenaline, maybe from drugs or just adrenaline in general.
Yeah.
Like it seems like they literally thought they were like fighting for their lives. So Sabina ended up pleading guilty to manslaughter with diminished responsibility in September 2009. Sabina never gave an explanation for her actions and would only ever reply no comment to any questions she was asked. Both the prosecution and defense claimed Sabina was insane at the time of the murder, but that she had become sane again by trial time. The defense counsel in the trial claimed that Sabina was a secondary sufferer of Folie, influenced by the presence or perceived presence of her twin sister, the primary sufferer. The court also heard that she had suffered from a rare psychiatric disorder which had made her hear voices, but she could not interpret what they said, as well as an alternative theory that she had suffered from acute polymorphic delusional disorder. Her plea was accepted by the prosecution in September 2010. Mr. Justice Saunders concluded that Sabina had a low level of culpability for her actions. He said, "I understand that the sentence will seem entirely inadequate to the relatives of the deceased. However, I have sentenced on the basis that the reason for the killing was the mental illness, and therefore the culpability of the defendant is low, and therefore the sentence I have passed is designed to protect the public, is not designed to reflect the grief the relatives have suffered or to measure the value of Mr. Hollinshead's life. No sentence that I could pass could do that. It is a sentence which I hope fairly measures a true tragic event. Sabina was suffering from delusions, which she believed to be true, and they dictated her behavior. It is not one of those cases where the defendant could have done something to avoid the onset." I think that's good. I mean, it's true. It's right. It's like sad for the victim, obviously, but I do think she clearly, like, something was going on.
Yeah.
Sabina was sentenced to 5 years in prison. She was sent to Bronzefield Women's Prison, where she turned to religion and faith and was said to become a Christian. Having already spent 439 days in custody before sentencing, she was released in 2011. Following her release, she returned to Sweden, and we haven't been able to find any updates on either of the sisters in recent years.
Yeah, I actually did some Googling the other day because I would be interested. Like now, I think they'd be 58 years old or around then. So like they just seem to have gone on for this incident and just literally have gone back to a low-key life. Ursula, I think, lives in the US still. She went back to the US after she was released. But nothing at all current about them. They just seem to literally have had this psychosis, a weird event, and they've just literally moved on and are back living their lives now. It's crazy. I do wonder too if them being identical twins had more to do with this, because they often say like twins, especially maybe identical, have this connection where like they know, for example, if one twin dies, the other one can has a sense, and they're more in tune with each other. So I wonder if that had something to do with this psychosis that they both experienced. I
maybe
would love to know more. They've never ever spoken publicly. Like you would think maybe this is the kind of thing where they do a tell-all for money, but they never have. It's just all speculation as to why they did what
Seems
they
like
did.
They just disappeared.
Yeah, and I guess went back to living their lives. Yeah, very, very strange and chaotic. It just seems like there was so much chaos and then it just was over. That was it. It was literally like this one situation.
I'd love to know why, but I guess they'll never say.
Yeah.
Or what they thought was happening.
Yeah. I feel like it must have been something with this fight that with the partner or the husband that set her off, and they're like, we need to get out of here. We need to go and get help for the kids. And then they just kind of both got caught up in whatever else was happening. And then once they got separated, Sabina, I guess, panicked and became even more ingrained in this psychosis, and that's why she killed Glenn.
Yeah.
Okay, so the second case we're going to discuss is an Australian one. I've always wanted to do it, and I've just always, it lives rent-free in my head, this case. I remember when it happened at the time. I just remember how crazy and insane it was. It's the case of the Tromp family. It happened now nearly 10 years ago, so August and September 2016, which again feels like yesterday in my mind. The Tromp family of 5, Mark, who was 51, Jacoba, who also went by Kobe, she was 53, and their children, Rihanna, who was 29, Mitchell, who was 25, and Ella. They disappeared from their farm in Victoria in Australia. They reappeared 1 week later following a police investigation, and 2 of them entered into psychiatric care. One investigating police officer described this case as the most bizarre I've seen in 30 years. So it is a wild, crazy one.
Mm-hmm.
At the time of the event, the family owned a red currant or a berry farm in Sylvan, and they also owned an earth moving company. So 2 of the children were still living at the family home at the time. Ella had her own trucking company, and all 3 of the children worked in the family businesses. The family had lived in Sylvan for about 10 years. So Sylvan, this is just some information about the town where they lived to give you a bit of an idea of where they were coming from. So Sylvan is a town in Victoria, Australia, located 40 k's east of Melbourne. It recorded a population of 1,323 as of the 2021 census, so a little bit after that, but still it wouldn't have been much different in 2016. It says the area's soils well suited to growing fruits, vegetables and flowers, draw tourists to the various pick-yourself orchids and berry farms in Sylvan. So the family did have a pick-your-own-berry farm too, but they were very well known in the community, you know, a very small place, essentially 1,300 people. Let's say it was a bit less in 2016, but either way, around 1,000 to 1,500 people. The family's farm was named Parkview Farm, and this is some information about that. It says Parkview Farm, the lovely tranquil property that is the site of the rural Victorian tight-knit tribe property and business, is a lush and sprawling berry farm where visitors are welcome to pick red currant berries and explore the idyllic livestock-studded surrounds. So there's tons of photos of the family. They liked riding horses. They seem to be very close, living this beautiful kind of wholesome farming lifestyle in this beautiful part of the world. On Monday, August 29th of 2016, the family all fled the farm in Ella's grey Peugeot vehicle. It would later be reported that Mark and Kobe had been suffering increasing signs of paranoia and stress. At least one of the parents believed that someone was trying to kill them all and take their money. They took with them a large amount of cash, but they left behind their bank cards, cell phones, and passports. So in the car, they fled towards New South Wales, which is a neighbouring state. It was discovered after they all left, though, that Mitchell had not left his cell phone at the farm. He was said to be the only member of the family who wasn't kind of swept up in this drama and paranoia, and he didn't believe that they were in danger. When it was discovered that he did have his phone, it was thrown out the window of the vehicle as they passed through Warburton, which was around 30 minutes drive from their home. The rest of the family were convinced that Mitchell's phone was being used to track them.
I'd be so annoyed.
I know. By the following day, Tuesday, August 30th, the family had arrived in Bathurst in New South Wales. This was around 8.5 hours away from their Sylvan home. At 7 a.m. that day, though, Mitchell decided he had enough and he left the family. He later said he'd gone along to ensure they would all be safe, but that his parents became increasingly delusional and hard to tolerate.
I just went back and looked, like, they're also adults. Like, Mitchell's 25, let's just remember.
And imagine just all getting in this car and taking off and leaving all your stuff behind except for cash. You'd be like, what is going on?
Yeah, I'd be like, what are you guys doing?
So after he left, the 4 remaining family members, so the mum and the dad and the 2 daughters, drove from Bathurst to Jenolan Caves, which is a tourist attraction around 1 hour away. So it's literally like a set of caves where you go. There's some like I put a photo in, I'll put it on the blog, but it's kind of picturesque. It is a tourist attraction. Like what were they planning to do at these caves? Why did they go there? I'm dying to know.
Yeah.
At this point, the 2 daughters, Rihanna and Ella, decided to also leave the situation. They stole a car and they drove 2 hours south to Goulburn. When they got there, they reported their parents missing. Ella and Rihanna decided to separate while they're in Goulburn. Ella said she wanted to go back to Sylvan to feed the animals on the farm. After Ella left, Rihanna climbed into the back of a vehicle driven by a random male. I guess this guy had pulled over in Goulburn. Goulburn is a kind of a big stop along the way, like there's restaurants. Like if you're going down that area, a lot of people will stop in Goulburn, so it's like there's places to do that. So I'm assuming she got into his car while he'd stopped to get petrol or was getting food or whatever, and basically he didn't discover her until he'd been driving away from Goulburn for an hour.
Even though they left the parents that were acting irrationally and erratically, it seems like there's still something going on with them. Maybe Ella not as much, but they're still exhibiting some weird behavior.
I can't even imagine just driving, then all of a sudden seeing this like head pop up or something. You'd be like, what is going on here?
I would crash the car.
So he pulled over and he called authorities. Rihanna was said to be catatonic. She couldn't tell them her name or where she was. So after the missing person report for the parents were filed, was filed, police went to the farmhouse in Sylvan. They said they found the house was empty and unlocked and paperwork had been strewn around the house everywhere. There are some varying reports as to when this happened, but either late on the Tuesday night or early on Wednesday, August 31st of 2016, both Ella and Mitchell arrived back at the farm in Sylvan. Mitchell had taken a series of trains and other public transport in order to get home. Later that day, which was Wednesday, August 31st, the family's Peugeot was spotted in Wangaratta in Victoria. This is around 6.5 hours drive from the Jenolan Caves where the daughters had split from the parents. So you have to imagine, like, I know I'll put a map on the blog, but there's this back and forth zigzag of, like, he went from one state, then drove back 6.5 hours back into the state where they came from. So it's not like they were going in a circle. It was literally kind of this zigzag pattern through a bunch of states. Police had received a report that the Peugeot had been seen following another vehicle, so they attended the location. The report was called in by a couple who were in their own car playing Pokemon Go at around 10 p.m. They told authorities that the driver, who we now know was Mark Tromp, had, quote, stalked them. One of the people in the report said, "I could barely see his headlights because he was that close to my car. Whenever he pulled over, the Peugeot would stop right behind them." So I guess you would think maybe this person was just kind of tailgating you and they wanted to pass you. So every time they'd pull over to let them pass, the car would stop behind them, which would be terrifying.
I'd be so scared. Yeah.
So Mark apparently got out and ran towards them, but then stopped in the middle of the road and stared. They watched him walk into a park and disappear into the night. Police did use dogs at the time to try and find him, but they weren't able to. On Thursday, the 1st of September 2016, Kobe was found wandering the streets in a town called Yass. We don't really know how she got to Yass. Yass is in New South Wales, which is where Jenolan Caves and Bathurst were, not where Wangaratta was, where Mark was found. So it's about a 3.5 hour drive from where he was stopped by police. It's theorized that she did go to Wangaratta, but then she got public transport back to Yass. I guess there's another option. He could have dropped her off on the way, or she could have got out of the car. But it does sound like, from what the majority of theories say, that from what I read, she got to Wangaratta, but then got on public transport and went back. So I don't know. Again, just this zigzag pattern. Yeah. She was taken to hospital in Yass before she was transferred to a hospital in Goulburn, and that is where Rihanna was also being treated. Around this time, there were a series of break-ins in Wangaratta, including one at a motel. These were investigated, but it was still unclear to this day if Mark was involved in any of these incidents, which wouldn't have surprised me. He was probably looking for shelter, food, could have been him. And, like, Wangaratta is a very small town. I'm just going to find the population.
Yeah, so like an uptick in these break-ins is
when I say it's
weird.
A small town, they call it a rural city. So, like, yeah, I'm assuming there was a disproportionate amount of break-ins that they probably thought were attributed to him.
Yeah.
So by this point, Mark was the only member of the Tromp family who wasn't accounted for, and Mitchell and Ella made a plea to their dad. He said, "I've never seen anyone like this or anyone conduct themselves in this way. I just really want my dad to be found. He's not dangerous. He's my mate, my father. I love him." Mitchell also said that his family had been facing financial and business pressures when they seemingly snapped and took off on this technology-free road trip. Mark's father, George, also spoke and said, "It's out of character. He's just a normal bloke like me." So on Saturday, September 3rd, 2016, which is around 5 or 6 days after this saga began, Mark was found alive on a street near the Wangaratta airport, and he was said to be in, quote, good health. He was questioned by police and he was assessed by mental health clinicians, and he was then released into the care of his brother, who is or was a police officer. He was photographed by the media as he was driven away by his brother, and he gave them all the finger. I remember this. I remember the photos, and he's just basically out there like a bit of a fuck you moment to them all. He gave a statement afterwards, though, that was more contrite, and he said his family had been through a difficult period. He said, "We'll soon be reunited and together. I hope that we'll begin to make sense of our ordeal and return to a normal life." Mark thanked law enforcement and authorities for their help, and he said, "Without reservation, I apologise for the hurt and concern caused by these events." He also went on to thank the healthcare professionals who had looked after the family's physical and mental well-being. And he said, "More than anything, my family and I need time to recover and receive appropriate assistance, including mental health services." So after Mark was found, Ella was charged with stealing the car that they did from Jenolan Cave. She was charged with theft of a motor vehicle and possessing the proceeds of a crime. She was scheduled to go to court for this in April of 2017. I can't find any updates on if she was ever, that ever proceeded or whatever happened. So maybe the charges were dismissed on like a mental health basis. I tried to find everything because I thought, I wonder what happened with that. I can't find any confirmation. So if you do know, please let us know. And as I've mentioned before, Australia is notoriously private with a lot of things. So if something like that did happen, it may not have made the media.
Yeah.
After the Tromp family was safely recovered, there was so much speculation, especially online. Drugs and addictions were mentioned as being possible causes of this kind of shared psychosis. Sergeant Mike said there was no evidence of that. He also said that none of them had been diagnosed with any mental health problems. They didn't have any debts, which goes against kind of what Mitchell was saying, but I guess you can be under financial pressure and not have any debts. They might have their business might have been starting to struggle. He also said they didn't belong to any religious or cult-like groups. One speculation is that maybe also they were affected by chemicals that had been used on the farm or something like a carbon monoxide poisoning. But Sergeant Knight said, this is just a massive meltdown. I'm sure of it. He actually said that he knew the family quite well because he was also from the local area. And he said, when I see them, I'll sit them down and say, what the hell happened here? Mitchell and Ella are really the only ones who have spoken to the media, and they said they couldn't really explain what happened. He said, I've never seen anything like it. It's just hard to explain or put a word on it. But then they were just fearing for their lives and they decided to flee. It was a build-up of different normal everyday events, just pressure, and it slowly got worse as the days went by. So as I mentioned, one of the theories, I feel like everyone has their own theory about it. Someone said, I always thought it sounded like they'd been carbon monoxide poisoned, just seems so strange that they'd left everything unlocked. But for me, I personally feel like this was just a super close family. All of them worked together. At least two of the kids still lived at the house. I feel like it seems like Rihanna and the mother Kobe were the ones who were really suffering from mental health concerns at the time because that's what they were hospitalized for. So I feel like just this shared paranoia and delusions kind of led them all to get swept away. They all, except for Mitchell, he said he only went to keep them safe. He kind of knew that what they were experiencing wasn't real. But the two girls and the parents both got so caught up in this that they decided to take off and flee from whatever, they thought was coming their way.
Yeah, I know like stress can definitely take a toll on a person and make you just snap, especially if it's been building up for all this time. But I'm also just like, if my parents started acting, because I'd understand if they were children, like your little children are just going to believe whatever their parents say. That's what I mean. Like they were adults. So if my parents were like, get in the car, we got to go. I'd be like, what are you doing? I'm calling the police right now. There's something wrong with you. Like, I understand like Mitchell was like, I was going just to make sure they were all okay. But I would have been calling the police right then and there.
Yeah. And like Rihanna was 29, so she was absolutely like nearly 30 years old.
Yeah.
I feel like, especially for her, it sounds like there was some mental health issues. I remember at the time the family did have social media. I had another look. Rihanna has social media still. She is out there. She's talking. Like she's still posting. I think the others might have locked down all the social media, which I understand because even when I Google now, there's still articles over the last few years. There's been like a show about it.
Yeah, I always see it on Reddit here and there.
Yeah, it's just one of those ones where it's so like maybe with the twins you could understand because it's easy enough to convince one other person that this is what's happening. But with this case, there was 5 people, even if we take Mitchell out, still 4 people that believed that there was something going on when there wasn't. Like whatever their delusions were, that's all they were. They were like, they may have been under financial pressure and stress that could have been real, but everything else about the people coming after them and but them being tracked by technology was not true. So it's just,
I wonder if it's could they've been exposed like to some toxic mold in their house or something that just built up over time
but again,
I don't know, it's just weird.
Very similar to the twins, they just seem to have gone back to their life. Like I know they asked for privacy and things like that, but like I tried to Google if they still own the farm. There's just nothing really about them. Rihanna posts on social media a bit, but it just is one of those very strange cases where they, it seems like Ella and Mitchell especially, and even Mark said, we are now getting the help that we need. So they understand that what they're experiencing wasn't real. They just all got carried away in this crazy road trip where they thought people were after them.
Yeah. I mean, I understand wanting your privacy, and maybe I'm just desperate. But at this point, I'd be like, who wants to buy this story? Because I'll sell it for the right amount of money.
Yeah.
I'll do a tell-all.
Yeah. So one other case that we covered previously, we must have covered it a while ago because I feel like it's been years, was about the Jamison family who went missing in Oklahoma. And theirs had a much sadder outcome. They were all found dead years and years later. But basically there was this weird footage of the parents coming and going like multiple like I want to say hundreds of times, if I remember rightly, from their house to their vehicle. And it was just almost like they were walking like zombies, just back and forth, back and forth. And they wrote a bunch of random like phrases and words on their house. I feel like theirs was more likely drug related though. Based on how they were acting, it was just this weird situation, and we still don't really we don't know what happened to them. All we know is they disappeared and then they were found dead,
and they were dead. Yeah.
So very like there, it does happen. It's crazy. And everyone else.
There's another one too.
The Slender Man cases one.
Is it?
Yeah, apparently, because when I was looking up like other cases, I'll just get it up so I can have.
There's another one where it was like a family with a boy semi-recently where they like went off the grid. And I remember he was like keeping like a journal or something. I'm pretty sure they all died. I don't know. I'll have to look it up. But there's like we were saying at the start, there's more cases like this, but a lot of times it's like family going off the grid for some reason and they're totally unprepared and then they die.
Yeah. Even like online they list the Bever family murders as a case of this. I don't know if I believe that. I believe they were just, I don't know. I guess it is kind of the same.
I guess the two brothers.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So the brothers shared, but I feel like that's just them making kind of this evil plan.
I don't think they were insane.
No, not as much of an obvious case as the ones we discussed today. It says in 2014, 12-year-old girls Anissa Weir, I think is how you say the name, Morgan Geyser stabbed their friend Peyton.
Oh, because they convinced each other.
Yeah, so it says Anissa's legal defense characterized the case as Folie or Deux. So that's the Slender Man one that I was referring to.
Yeah, I guess those ones, yeah. I don't know why I didn't think of it that way at first. But yeah, she was like, the one girl anyways was definitely like going through some type of mental illness. Yeah.
I feel like these two cases, it does seem like these are pretty clear evidence of the shared psychosis, that there was this weird relationship between, the twins and then the family, that they all share this psychosis. Whereas I feel like in other cases, they just use it as a defense excuse and, to try and take the blame. Maybe the Slender Man case is an example of that. We'll have to, we do plan. People always ask if we're going to do an episode on that, and I think we will one day, but I feel like it can obviously also be used as a kind of a insanity, mental health type defense in some cases.
Yeah, the one girl in the Slender Man case definitely was very mentally ill, but she like convinced the other one who wasn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I get why it happens, because especially if you're very isolated and it's like you're just with this person all the time and they're going off on all these like conspiracy theories and they get you scared. So like I can understand it, but then at the same time, sometimes it seems so like ridiculous that you can convince another person to share this delusion with you.
I would just be so interested to know why the twins acted like they did, and especially why the parents just, it seems like Kobe was more so, but why she thought that this is what was actually happening to the family. I guess, when you're so dejected in terms of the Tromp family, it sounds like they were worried about money. It's just easy to get caught up in that endless cycle.
I want to like escape
negativity, and just once you're in that rut, it's hard to get out, and just everything seems 1,000 times worse. Okay, so that's it for the Folie or Deux cases for today. We may look to do a few more of these as time goes on. It is a very interesting phenomenon. If you have heard of any other cases you want to share with us, just let us know and we will definitely have a look into them.
So that's it for this episode. Definitely let us know what you guys think. Everything will be on the blog at truecrimesocietyblog.com if you want to read a bit more about it or see any of our sources. Make sure you're following us on Instagram at True Crime Society. We're always posting latest updates and cases and things on there. If you want to follow our accounts, Olivia's is TCS Olivia. Mine is _. If you want to see what we're up to, and make sure you check us out on Patreon. We do weekly bonus episodes and we do all the episodes ad-free. Plus this main episode gets released a day earlier. Plus it's just its own community. Olivia has like a book chat group where everyone is always talking about books and recommendations and stuff, which is pretty cool. So check us out on there. Otherwise, this all the same stuff you could share with your friends, family, anyone who shows a slight interest in true crime. That'd be great. And if you could share to your Instagram story, like what you're doing while you're listening to the podcast, we love resharing them and it helps us get the word out. So that is it. As always, stay safe out there. Thanks for listening. Peace out.
See ya.